YouTube, big unboxing today. Lots of Rolexes, which will basically show you, hey, what's selling nowadays from Rolex. And a few special pieces for both men and ladies. I'll quickly run through the Rolexes just to, again, give you guys an idea what's selling. Sky Dwellers, Blue Sky Dwellers Jubilee, still a great seller. And guess what? What's not to like? They sort of come down in price to more or less a reasonable price point where you're not paying 7 times retail. So therefore, people are starting to pick them back up because guess what? You still can't get them. Explorers, right? The Explorers have been a staple seller, both on a white dial and a black dial, with the white dial being a bit more popular, the polar one, and the black dial, lots of people pick up because there's a bit of savings between the black and the white dial. Now, again, price point Rolex that's actually affordable. I think it's a pretty iconic Rolex, and hence every day we get one of them. Daytonas, gold Daytonas, or gold Rolex in general, right? So gold Rolexes in general today, what you're seeing is you're seeing a lot of the gold stuff from Rolex coming down to around that retail price plus tax, give or take. So what a lot of people are taking advantage of, especially on the secondary, is some of the pre-owned stuff that's out there that's trading at around list, some pieces even slightly under list. The ratio to gold versus steel was always like at least 1 to 7, 1 to 5, and right now I'm seeing that gap closing to almost 1 to 1 because again, lots of people out there were priced out of the market with some of these models, especially gold models, trading way above list with the retail price already being high. Hey, the old school Yacht-Masters, right? Especially with the blue dial. People have been requesting these. I am seeing an uptick in the older Yacht-Masters. The blue dial obviously is a newer model, but I'm also seeing people requesting a lot of the older ones with the platinum dial. Price point is still very reasonable in comparison to guys like Yacht-Masters, you know, the bigger Yacht-Masters as well as the Sky Dwellers and so on and so. I can't talk today. I had a long trip to New York yesterday. I'm like, this is a Datejust with the, what do they call it, the palm motif. You got to get in on this dial. This is, again, as of late releases from Rolexes, the palm motif dials are some of my favorite. I would love to see something like this. You know, you're seeing funky dials for the most part on Datejust, right? But I'd love to see something out of the box, a GMT with a motif dial, you know, a chronograph with a motif dial like a Daytona. I don't know if Rolex would ever do that, but Rolex, if you're listening, make me a date with that motif dial. I would love that. And so would everybody else. It would probably sell 5 times over list. A lot of people love the rose gold day-date olive. I actually like the white gold. And in fact, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I prefer this day-date with the blue dial versus the olive dial. I think when you put this dial in a rose gold watch, it takes away from the dial, where on the white gold metal, pretty much every dial pops more. Enough with the Rolex, let's get into a couple of other things. Obviously my favorite boxes, which are the green AP boxes. Royal Oaks. Royal Oaks is another one that we see an uptick in terms of sales. I mean, just last week we sold 4 Royal Oak chronos in various configurations to include anniversary pieces, to include regular pieces on older pieces such as this. I'll go say stainless steel Royal Oaks trading at around $100,000, and you get down about 40% from that. People are starting to say, oh wow, it actually makes sense for me to buy one now in terms of the price, because using the word afford is probably not the most correct terminology because, you know, 50 grand is still a lot of money, right? But it's not about affordability, it's about what makes sense to the end consumer, which is why towards the peak of the market, 99% of those were being traded B2B and didn't really end up on people's wrists. That's when you know you're in trouble. Code 1159, again, still, I mean, look at this. This is the newer steel model, and these things are selling, and they're selling well because, again, I would call it a breath of fresh air outside of the world of Royal Oak. Breath of fresh air, breath, very affordable. And again, what's not to like, right? Again, I always talked about how this is a Royal Oak sandwich in between. I always talked about it's an alternative to a Royal Oak. Because look, there's a lot of guys out there that love the brand AP, and I know guys that have over a dozen Royal Oaks. Some even have more. And for them, it's a nice alternative because, again, another Royal Oak, another Royal Oak, another Royal Oak. Once you get all the complications within the Royal Oak, the different metals, the vintage, the modern, the neo-vintage, AP guys still want something different, and Code 1159 is often a pretty good option. I don't know who bought this, but whoever did, kudos to you. So, ladies Breguet Classique. Since Breguet came to Earth, he's done everything well over the years. He's responsible for pretty much most of the innovation we're seeing in horology today. But one of the things I liked about Breguet and what he's done in the past is they made ladies' pieces that were high jewelry pieces. If you look at the Queen of Naples line, also, for those that know, the first wristwatch ever made, right, was for a lady, for the Queen of Naples. They do a tremendous job making high jewelry pieces, right? Haute joaillerie, as they call it. Where's Marco when you need him? In French. With that said, but at the same token, they also managed to tone down the bling, if you will, take their existing Classique line, like they make this watch for men without diamonds in a bigger size, and just add a tiny bit of diamonds, if you will, to sort of sparkle it just a bit, but yet not make it loud and gaudy. Oftentimes you go out to major manufacturers and when you look at ladies' pieces, especially those that carry precious stones, be it diamonds, sapphires, rubies, etc., it tends to be over the top, where they kind of got the best of both worlds. Because you know what? There are women out there that want the heavy duty bling, if you will, but there are those that want to wear something on a daily that still is very classic, that still has a little bit of bling on it, but yet somewhat subdued, right? And that's what I like about Breguet, because they kind of managed to capture the best of both worlds when it comes to creating ladies' pieces. And this is the Van Cleef Lover's Bridge. Watch that's like nearly impossible to get even at the Van Cleef boutique because they're just not readily available. You have a pretty lady standing on the bridge, and this guy sees her and he thinks she's cute. So he walks over, they kiss, and apparently she pushes him away. and walks away herself. But what this is it's a retrograde watch, and we know how retrograde watches work. You know, your minute hand is going to get to the 60 mark, and then it'll jump back, and then the hour hand will jump back to the next hour, and so on and so forth. And in this case, the lady represents the hours, and the guy represents the minutes. As much as guys like to look at things like rarity and production numbers and being popular and so on and so forth, 99% of all ladies will buy a watch based on what it looks like, not based on the fact that it may be a limited edition and so on and so forth. Like one of the first, not the first, but one of the first watches that I bought my wife was the Audemars Piguet offshore 𝗙𝗰𝗲𝗯𝗍𝗃. It's a white watch you guys often see her wear on certain videos when she's on there. It's literally her favorite watch. It wasn't years until she figured out that it was actually a limited edition of 500 pieces of the pretty rare watch. She says, it's just the prettiest watch I own. When it comes to ladies' pieces, watches have to be attractive, right? A lot of guys will buy watches not for what it looks, for what's inside or how rare it is. There's certain vintage pieces out there that fetch buku dollars, but if you break them down and look at them, they're butt ugly, but guys are not buying them because they look good, but it's because they're rare. But when it comes to ladies' pieces, it's quite the opposite. Richard Mille, by the way, had, coming out of the gate when I was first starting out, going back almost 20 years, they had the most horrible boxes in the world. So they had a box like this, which they call it an egg-shaped box. It was actually, this isn't leather, this is some kind of, I don't know, fake something or other. I don't know what this is. But see how I'm handling this box? I would not be able to do that with the original box because it weighed a ton. And I would say the box was probably a good 15 pounds, which is very heavy for a box, right? Especially this size. In here we have the titanium 6701. It's, how should I put this? It's very tough to say affordable in the same sentence as Richard Mille, but it's probably the most popular, somewhat or relatively affordable Richard Mille today. Oddly enough, the only brand out there where you don't really see a big line between precious metals and non-precious metals when it comes to watches, right? Like the difference between a white gold and titanium 6701 is almost nothing. It really doesn't make a difference. Richard Mille, they're the only brand that were able to achieve that, believe it or not. 6701 is one of the most popular, relatively affordable to its counterparts, like the Bubba Watsons, like the 1103s or the Chronographs or the Power Reserve models out there. And that's why it is often requested, still hovers, you know, over list obviously, but not tremendously over list like some of the other models out there. Last but not least, and very, very special, you guys know how I feel about independents, right? And one of the independents that I respect a lot is Urwerk. But I bought the Urwerk 103, one of the original models from Urwerk, when they first started out. A watch that I remember you used to be able to pick up around $10,000, maybe $15,000, and now they've gone up to upwards of $65,000 to $75,000, depending on condition. For anybody out there always asking me, you know, sleepers, investments, blah, 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 this is a long-term hold. Any original Urwerks, first of all, the production numbers were so low, I couldn't even begin to tell you how many of these were made, but I'd be surprised if there's more than 20 of these out there, right? And so any early independent in general, not just Urwerk, singular watchmakers that came out there, created their own brand, here they are. What are they producing, considering they're doing it by themselves, right? How many watches can they possibly produce, especially if they come out with a line of like, 6, 7 models? How many watches can they possibly produce in their early stages? Very, very, very few. I guess it goes for any company out there. Even those that started 200 years ago, again, production numbers were extremely low. You can also look for things like lapses in production due to current horological environment, if that's such a thing. One of the things that I talked about Breguets from 1980s, right? Blancpains, Chopards, and things of that nature. But what was the horological environment then? It was the quartz wars, right? The quartz watch came out and damn near killed the Swiss watch industry. Well, what happens during something like that? Low production numbers. COVID, right? Another one, low production numbers. You can use common sense when you're looking into something that you're going to enjoy for a long time, such as like this. And when I say long-term hold, I don't mean hold, put it in the back of the safe. I mean long-term hold, buy it, wear it, enjoy it, show it to your friends. Let others take a look at it, explain what it is if this is something that gets your rocks off. So this watch actually brings up a good point for those that always ask me, hey, sleepers, investments, long-term holds, short-term holds, and things of that nature. I'm not a stockbroker, I'm a watch dealer, but at the same token, a lot of you guys out there that are buying these products can simply use common sense. And I think horological environment is a good place to start in terms of, this is the time I'm looking at. What was done during that time? What happened in terms of production numbers? Is this a brand that just came out? Was there a pandemic? Was there a quartz crisis, which we'll never see again, obviously? But those are some of the things that I personally look at when I look at things and say that I feel that this is a long-term hold. And in this particular watch, the reasoning behind it is one of the first models that they came out with very early on when the company opened up. So odds are not a whole lot were made. And that's kind of how I do it when I don't try to predict the future, I just try to use common sense. You guys know what I say, these are expensive toys. Buy what you like first and foremost, wear them, enjoy them. And that's gonna bring me to the end of the unboxing. I do wanna give a quick shout out to, you guys know, I got into collecting F1 cards, and Daz from Hall of Fame Collection sent me sealed boxes from 2020. The cool part about it for you guys that are into card collecting, technically every 2020 card from Formula One is a rookie card, and the reason for that is because that's when Topps finally decided to create an F1 product. I think that the F1 sports popularity in the US market has been rising steadily at a tremendous pace. And with that said, to me, this is that alternative passion asset. And I think long term, you're gonna see a lot of these 2020 cars go through the roof because look, we're the only country that has 3 races for F1. And supposedly I read an article that Atlantic City, around the corner from here, is building an F1 style track that should be ready by 2027. You know what happens when the US market gets into something, values go up on whatever it might be. So shout out to Darren, thank you so much from Hall of Fame Collection for finding me still sealed 2020 boxes. Guys, I appreciate all you guys tuning in, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever else platform you got me on. And I am going to, I don't? All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.